Welcome to Grover Load. I'm Anthony, and here we have Intel has now gone and released Meteor Lake. Now we're turning instead of the 14th gen on mobile, the Core I series, not the Core I series. They're getting rid of the Core I series. I'm gonna mix this up. The Core Ultra series. So let's just go through, and I will kind of walk through the slide deck that they kind of had, or some of the slide deck, and give you my thoughts on this. I think that first off the bat, right, AMD had that announcement last week where they came out the 8040 series, basically kind of the same CPU, GPU stuff, but the new AI engine, their XDNA engine on there with, what is it, going to be 50 tops on there, and you'll see where Intel's kind of sitting today and how I think AMD wanted to get out ahead of that before Intel's announcement today. So let's just jump over and take a look at this. But now it's a Core Ultra series or Core Ultra processors on Meteor Lake, right? They had they talk about all this stuff, what the reimagining, lead at an AI scale, or that's what they were hoping for. So, the Intel 4, which is what, like 7 nanometer or something, it's progressing. Intel seems like they're getting on top of their manufacturing process, which I like to see, right? Stagnant on the manufacturing process, having problems with it, while it's, interesting storyline and can be funny at certain times, it's a disappointment because it's getting behind the competition, and I like to see a competing processor. So that's good to see. But here's just a rundown of it, right? You can have up to 6 P cores and 8 E cores, and then they also have 2 low power E cores and 22 threads. So this is their Intel 4 compute tile, and then up to 5.1 gigahertz max turbo. They have built-in ARC GPUs with up to 8 of their Xe cores. I believe that ARC branding is only for specific if you meet certain requirements. Up to 64 gigs of LPDDR5 and 96 gigs of DDR5 at 5600 versus 7467. So take that information depending upon which memory speed you want it. DDR4 also low power versus DDR5, but low power or Thunderbolt 4 and then Wi-Fi 6E. They're saying it's the most efficient x86 processor for ultra thins. I mean, it wouldn't be bad I'd like to see one of these in a framework where I could test it out between the 12th gen, between the 7040, and then this new one. That'd be kind of fun. I don't know if I'll get one, but we'll see. Uh, Talking about some of their stuff, they finally have or looks like some of Foveros finally in here, which is their kind of their 3D stacking and their tiles all working together. Glued together chips that Intel, made fun of AMD for back when Zen originally came out. They increased the OS scheduler with their thread director, or improved that, which is a good sign. And this is kind of where Intel's Core Ultra 7 165H kind of lands versus their Intel Core i7 1370P is the dark blue line versus the light blue line. So looks around like 20 watts and below, it's kind of mapped on it. And then as you go higher, you get a little bit more performance versus the 13th gen, and then they have the 7840U at 30 watts here. So Intel showing that they beat AMD by 11%, Apple by a little bit, and then the Qualcomm 8XCX, which is running on some Windows devices. I'm sure Intel is doing that to say, hey, Microsoft, look at what we can do. So you can see here Intel's comparing their 13th i7 1370p versus the Core Ultra 7 165 or 165H. Oh, these names. A reduction power consumption. Now, this could be, they were saying Netflix playback. Whoops, I'm clicking on things and it's taking me places. Let's go back there. Uh, this could be some of it, the LP cores, so low power cores on the SoC tile, which is it's an interesting concept. I have to say I like the concept of getting these low power cores, these, ultra low powered, on just the SoC tile, just for you can shut down the other tile probably completely, or almost completely, and then you run the low power stuff on these SoC tiles. It's a great idea. Here's they're talking about power leadership. I don't know how AMD competes. This is at 28 watts. It's going to come down probably to some battery power in the same systems. If they're using the same battery, that's where I would like the framework. You can swap out stuff. You can test stuff that way. It's a pretty it's one benefit to the framework stuff is that you have the same chassis, which makes it a lot easier. Because it's just different board swap in and swap out. So that's we'll see in real life how this all goes. Some third-party tests. I don't always, we've seen how benchmarks have been in the past. CPU performance leadership. They're talking about the Crestmont and the Redwood Cove cores. So that your Redwood is your P cores and your E cores is your Crestmont, and your compute tiles, your E cores. They talking. Oh yeah, it's new generation, better speed. I expect that. P core is targeted for efficient performance. Uh, I hope it's for performance. Sometimes you see efficiency, and it's just like I want performance out of these P cores, but significant improvement over prior E cores. So they're kind of talking a little bit more about core performance. Again, I'm taking this with all a grain of salt. I've watched some reviews of it. They look, interesting. It seems like there might need to be a little bit more updates to make sure that you get reliable performance out of it. I've seen some videos where the performance was, variable throughout the, multiple runs of, let's say, a game or even in a game, or, also, on like Cinebench. So, and other performance tests, which is a downside. Now, is that just a driver update? Is that just a firmware update? I hope, right? It most likely could be just that. But it's something to keep in mind as you're looking through this. WorldCal has built-in GPU. I would just say Intel built-in GPU. Let the ARC stuff speak for itself until ARC gets established up there with NVIDIA, right? I would say AMD even would have a hard time saying world-class, built-in GPU, even though that they've done the built-in side stuff for a lot longer. It's just you're comparing to NVIDIA for a lot of this, and if you can attach on an NVIDIA GPU onto it, that again, this is for power supply, but or power constraint devices from thin, right? But here, they're going through and they're competing with their previous gen, which looks a lot better. That's what I'd like to see improvement here. Now they did do the 7840U in two devices versus the Asus ZenBook and MSI Prestige. So you can see it's tied here between these two, and MSI Prestige versus, that we don't have another MSI here to see where that was at. So it kind of looks like, if I'm going to take the two middle ones, I'm going to say they're tied. Is that true in real life? We'll see. Again, they have AI-based rendering with XeSS. Oh, throwing on AI keywords here. They go through some more games here. AI experience. So here's where I wanted to kind of get to, because we just talked about AMD last week with their AI engine, and now they have three AI engines: GPU, NPU, and CPU. Yeah, AMD kind of has the same setup there as well, and delivers up to 34 tera tops on this. So AMD with their 8040, which I believe is 50 there, is going to have more tops. Now 7040 is a lot less, but I'm going to say this as well, right? I said this with AMD. If Intel truly has, all these blocks going together and stuff, and have this 3 packaging, being able to swap this out and say, hey, we're going to throw in a bigger, more powerful NPU on this generation. You can have these steps and generations iterations where maybe the only upgrade is the AI engine, maybe the only upgrade is the GPU, right? And these, I think, create a better ecosystem or a better, rev in a generation rather than having to wait for all three to be, perfectly done before you can even, rev something, rev another generation out. So those are something to keep. If Intel's going to be able to do that, and AMD, we could be able to see some, half steps, or AMD releasing these, because the 7040, even though it was released like April last year, announced, it took a while for it to get out. The 8040 is already, coming right down the pike already, and that's just a rev of the AI engine basically. And you can start. We don't have a new Zen core out yet, so you can kind of get these things moving a little bit faster. If that's what Intel's going to do too, this could get, very fun to watch, because you can have innovation faster between companies wanting to beat each other out and have a better product. And it's just going to be, okay, I can rev, the AI engine and maybe GPU at the same time to get ahead. I know my CPU's there, but I'm going to try to beat them on this. And you start doing that sort of thing. And I think that's going to be where, as consumers, we're going to see a huge benefit. And then they go through some AI performance. Now this is 7840. You can see it's there's some things where it doesn't work well, other things where it does, and you can see where the 13th gen and AMD kind of trade blows, but then the new Ultra 7 165H kind of does a really well job. Now, does this work in real world? We'll have to see, right? I hope that we kind of get some good AI test developed so we can also test this. And again, I hope that stuff like this in Meteor Lake comes to the desktop, these AI engines and stuff, because as you see here, DaVinci Resolved, Lightroom, Premiere Pro, stuff that, video editing, I like to see actually take a benefit from. If it's not on my desktop CPU, I'm not doing all this rendering on a thin light because it just takes forever for the videos that I've been putting up. But yeah, and the broad AI engine data, they go through a whole bunch of stuff here. Um, Performant, not performant, did not run. I hate kind of these sorts of things, but this is what Intel put in there. Your symbols like this, green check, you know, is usually it, but leave the other ones blank. So, going through, they have Generation AI ready. They go through some of the AI stuff here, superpower, the killer app choice, scale and speed. They have 100 AI ISVs. So there's that. Does it mean much? No. I think it could mean something. It's just, that's sort of the annoying part of some of these slide decks of going through. Now, here's the breakdown of the H series, which I really like here. The breakdown of it, right? You have your NPU on here, your Thunderbolt 4, your imaging processing, Wi-Fi, your GPU, and your core architecture. I think breaking it down and showing people, what's all there is very a nice layout. Then you go through a little bit more and talks about some stuff. But here we go of the specs, and I'm just going to run through this real quick here. So you have the Ultra 7. Here's the 7s of 165 and 155 in the H series. Which you're going to have your 6P cores and 8E cores and 2 your LP. These are going to clock up to 5 gigahertz there. Then you have your Ultra 5, 135 and 125. So that's going to be 4 and 4 cores, 8 E cores, and 2 low power cores. And these all have the ARC GPU, and between 8 and 7 with your AI boost, etc. So that's the breakdown. I think the H is kind of your more high performance there. Then you got the U, which is your ultra thin lights. Man, the U with Ultra 7 165U. Now you notice the core counts are going to be different here between the 165 H processors. That's going to be 2 cores. And all of these, actually, the Ultra 5s also only have 2 cores, and then they all have 8 E cores and then 2 low power cores. And they all have the same XE cores as well. The only difference is you're boosting, it looks like, of both frequencies AI boost. It's just Intel graphics, not Arc. Um, and that's basically it. It's, you know, your wattage, your base wattage here is 15. So yeah, there's not much difference between these as well. And then there's going to be an Ultra 9 185H next year, and then you're going to have some U's as well, an Ultra 7 164 and a Ultra 5 134. It looks like the exact same, just different clocks, unless I'm missing something here. But that's about it. So uh, these are all going to be, laptops are coming out here soon. I do not have a laptop to be able to test this out. Like I said, I like to be able to just throw a board in. I actually would like to just have a framework chassis, and as these come out, you just test them um, to see, exact same chassis. Just, you swap out the board and the fan. Okay, how does it perform? And we just go through and test them that way, through a suite, through, games, everything else. But, like I said, it kind of seems like Intel's coming out trying to compete, get over that 7040. To me, Intel does not want to lose the mobile market to AMD, right? Intel will do whatever possible to make sure that they stay and have a grip hold on that. It's a huge market, and there's a lot of money to be made from it, and Intel does not want to lose that market. Now, with these, if I remember correctly, the AMD 8040 is 50 tops on that AI engine versus 34. Is that a lot in performance wise? I don't know how it stacks up, but Microsoft was on stage saying at AMD saying as many tops as you give us, we will use. If that's the case, and this assistive AI is really, that is local processed, is really going to take off. If we start seeing it in games and in software, and these MPUs become a huge factor within the next 6 months, and I don't know, right? 6 months would be kind of hard to get all those updates out. This could be, a huge benefit to AMD, whereas Intel was already, they were behind the eight ball when these were announced compared to where AMD was. Now, you can buy the devices today. These are, according to Intel, have a better AI engine than the 7040 series. But if you already bought a 7040s, you're not upgrading probably to this processor right here. Like, you have to wait for, a normal upgrade cycle if you want, unless you're just going cycling through laptops. Um, I do like the gluing the chips together. I think that is a really good idea. I think that these allows you to iterate over and create a product where I can just upgrade a part of that to be able to, maybe beat out the competition, re-rev a launch, and get that out to the users, making users be able to, have better products overall. Now, we'll see how this all lines up. I like to see some more data on this. I'd like to see, Intel have that consistency in either whatever's going wrong with it, where you're running the same process over and over again, and sometimes it's a great score, and sometimes it looks like it's doing something weird. It should have been a lot higher, and getting that consistency out of the process, I think these make a lot more sense to many users. But I like the direction where Intel's going, and we'll see how Meteor Lake kind of goes in the market here in the next few months. But this is a good step forward for Intel, getting it out there. Would have liked to seen it maybe last month before AMD's event. Wouldn't have been such a downer, I think, for Intel on the spotlight, right? Because you have AMD out there with their new 8040, which your numbers are comparing to the 7040 because there's no 8040 stuff out yet. But you know, it's kind of how the market goes, and being able to do that, this is where it's at. And Intel getting these out, I think, will be good little benefit for consumers to get, if they're in the market for one, to be able to consider it versus what AMD has in the market. And if we get more numbers out, we can kind of see where AMD and Intel sit against each other. But my thoughts are, is if you're in the market for a laptop, definitely consider, if these fit your needs, because looks like that 13th gen is now rolling, being old stock, and you might be able to also get yourself on a good old stock as well. But that's my thoughts on this. It's not too high, not too low, just right. Uh, but it's one of those things where I'm just paying attention, trying to see where this is kind of going. And it's interesting to see the AI stuff. Both of these companies, AMD and Intel, kind of deliver that up a little bit more and bring that up as one of their ending parts of their slide decks, because they're probably looking at it as this is their thing where people are looking at right now, and hopefully it's a selling point for them. We'll see. My big thing as a software developer is how much software is going to use some of this AI stuff so that it does benefit users. Because if no software is using it, it's no matter how much you talk it up, no matter how powerful it is, it doesn't matter. So with that, let me know what your thoughts are on this new Intel Core Ultra processors. Yeah, I get it, the naming scheme. I'll go over naming schemes some other time, but um, I have other videos on how much I hate some of the naming these companies do. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think of these. I'm interested to hear what you have. It's to me, it's interesting of where the direction that Intel's going, finally getting this, and I hope that they can just keep this up and keep momentum, because I like to see two, companies in the market at least being able to compete and giving consumers a better product. Um, because that's a benefit to consumers, and I am one of those. So I like to see benefits. But with that, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It really does help out the channel a ton. And until next time, God bless.